attorney came back and said that goes to show that the problems that the law has in keeping up with what is actually happening. Now, I myself am personally against abortion, absolutely. And just like I said, when my husband and I found out that we were pregnant, she was a child. She was real. And I'll never go back against that. And I hate that I'm wishy-washy on that. And the reason that I'm wishy-washy on that answer is because I think I have some duty as a judge candidate not to answer that specifically. And I know I hate that. I hate saying that. But what I can say is I personally do not agree with abortion.
The judicial code of ethics states that a judge or judicial candidate shall not make pledges or promises of conduct in office regarding pending or impending cases.
Right.
My interpretation, that doesn't fall as an impending case.
Let's move to Adrian.
Well, certainly, and my opinion is that abortion should be illegal. And so it's a tough, I just don't want to mess up anything in the campaign about my judicial ethics. But obviously, I'm very against it.
Interpretations.
Adrian?
A question about the role of government. Conservatives believe that all branches of government are usurping responsibilities that are not theirs. Does the court have any jurisdiction over reforming criminals versus punishing them?
That's an interesting question. Reforming versus punishing. I think that it is the judge's job to, number one, follow the law and to not make laws. That's first and foremost. Now, part of the judge's job is also punishment. And in all honesty, for misdemeanor cases, there's no one going to be going to prison. We will never send someone to prison that is charged with a misdemeanor. So the next question you have is, okay, do we want to send them to jail, or do we want to take this opportunity to perhaps try to curb this behavior that's going on? And that's a little bit this idea of reforming. I personally think that if there is ever a time, if there's ever an opportunity to help someone, it is in these misdemeanor courts. So let's talk about like DWIs. When they're misdemeanors before they're felonies, that's the time to catch them and to say, you have a problem with drinking. You need to get some serious help, and we can force them as opposed to looking at jail time. Well, do you want to seek some help? Do you want to get some help with this problem that you might not think that you have, but now you do because now you're in the court system? So I don't know if that's answering your question exactly, but I think if there's ever a time for attempting to do that, it is in the misdemeanor courts as opposed to in the felony courts.
We have a question on here, Bill.
Yeah, I'm puzzled over your concern about the judicial ethics. You're probably familiar with the Supreme Court case with Nathan Heck, who was criticized by the State Bar Association for something a position he had taken, and he fought that case. You probably know about this. Took it to the Supreme Court, and what we learned is judges have a right to free speech.
Absolutely.
And so I don't think you should be at all concerned about saying I'm opposed to Roe v. Wade if in fact you are.
Right. And I understand that, but what I guess my concern is that case seems to continue on for infinity. It doesn't ever seem to be settled. It seems like the Supreme Court is still hearing it and rehearing it, and it seems to be open. And I know that's such a hot button issue, and I know what my personal convictions are. I feel very good when I go to sleep at night about what my personal convictions are. I am not a Supreme Court justice, but all I can tell you is that I do not believe abortion is right. So if that just leads you down the path of then Roe versus Wade should be overturned, if you want to make that logical leap,
okay.
Right, then I'm comfortable with that.
Thank you.
Okay. Bob, you have a question?
Yeah, how strong are you on DWIs, and do you believe that we should pass the law for the ignition interlock for first offenders?
I would love that. I'm very strong on them. That's the majority of the cases that I've heard in the misdemeanor courts are DWIs. Montgomery County is #1 for fatalities on road accidents that are directly related to intoxication. We are the #1 in Texas for per capita, per 1,000 people. We've got 2 main highways that come through Montgomery County, which means there are just a lot of people that are drinking in Houston, driving through our county, drinking here, getting on the highways. DWIs are fortunately coming down a little bit. However, the numbers are still appalling. And I believe that ignition interlock is really one of the only ways to prohibit that. Now, you can get your neighbor to blow in the car for you, but that is one of the deterrents that I appreciate very much, as opposed to, well, it's illegal to drink and drive. Well, pardon me, it's illegal to drive while intoxicated, but where an ignition interlock actually will stop that. Now, on the same hand, let me say that there are some people that may be first-time offenders that will never offend again, and we certainly see that in our county. And there are a lot of studies about, what's the most effective way to keep people from drinking and driving, and I think it's that first step, the deterrent. So the ignition interlock is certainly one.
Tracy, a follow-up to that, what's the percentage of illegals on the DWIs with that question?
With illegal evidence? I don't know the percentage.
It's over 30%.
We can move to a question over here. Brian?
So back to the question of reform and all that. Under what kind of circumstances or cases would that program or treatment or whatever be paid for at state, county expense?
That's a great question. And right now, probation is paid through the county. And that's all those programs are paid within. Now, we've been working really hard.
Now, my question, I don't want to know what happened. I want to know under what circumstances it's proper, in your view.
Like what types of cases?
Yeah, well, what's okay, not okay.
Okay, I think there's some DWIs that are appropriate. I think age is a question to consider. There's someone who doesn't have a history that we think we could get some kind of assistance with, that has a drug charge. That's the time to take care of it.
At county expense. The question was private, the person...
I understand what you're saying. Happening in the misdemeanor courts is that we're assessing about $150,000 to $200,000 in fines a month that's going directly back to the county. So we're really focusing on getting the criminals to pay for the crime, which is important. Now, the question of, well, shouldn't they pay for their own treatment? Absolutely. They shouldn't be an alcoholic. They shouldn't drink and drive. They shouldn't make these poor decisions. But we don't live in that world.
No, the question is not what should they do, what should the county do?
Well, if they're not going to do it themselves, then there are times when, yes, the county says, hey, we've got an interest in protecting the citizens.
Okay, I believe we have a question back here.
Yeah, just to go back to the pit. And do you believe there are any circumstances where abortion would be morally acceptable, or where you might think it should be allowed?
No, I don't think there's this instance when it's morally acceptable, no.
Do you think there are any circumstances where it should be illegal?
I mean, where it should be legal?
Yeah.
I mean, I think we can talk about the situation where a woman is raped and she becomes pregnant as a result of that rape. However, I still don't think morally that's right.
Should the law allow abortion in that circumstance?
I mean, I don't believe it should. I think that's a terrible circumstance, and I can't even begin to imagine what this woman would have had to go through, but perhaps that's something that happened for a reason. I know God has a plan for all of us, and I am never one to question God's plan.
Your time. Okay. Great, our time is up.